Yo, what's good? It's the boy Do The Views, and in case you haven't seen the final episode of Attack on Titan, then heavy spoilers coming your way. You have been warned. After 10 long years, the AOT anime has finally come to an end, and I couldn't be more happier with the ending. In case you didn't see my review of the final episode, go check it out, but overall I love the ending. I think after a day, after thinking about it more, I think I like it even more. I'm a manga reader, so I read the ending 2 years ago, so I've always known about how it was all going to wrap up, and even back then I still loved it. I think at the time I was a bit unsure about how I felt with Connie and Jean turning into Titans and then coming back to life. I think because in chapter 139, where they had that emotional moment with one another, I assumed that this was it for them, and I went an entire month thinking that they were gone for good, waiting for the final chapter, and then the final chapter dropped and they were back. Gave me whiplash, dude. That's how I felt at the time, but not right now anymore. I like the idea of Eren wanting all of his friends, including Jean and Connie, to live long, happy lives. And it's heartwarming. How did Studio MAPPA make a masterpiece? Did Studio MAPPA adapt the manga one-to-one? Did he add any changes? Well, the answer is both. I will only cover the final chapter of the episode, as that is where the main bulk of the changes appears. So without further ado, let's get on with it. So the main dialogue scene between Eren and Armin at the beginning of the final chapter is more or less the same. One thing I noticed with the art style in the early parts of this final chapter, the streak lines that usually appear on the characters' faces aren't appearing on both Eren or Armin. It makes the character designs look a lot cleaner, but most of the dialogue in the early parts of this final chapter is more or less the same from manga to anime. But after the conversation of Armin telling Eren that he wants his friends to be like the Tiber family, protecting Paradise Island from the threat of other humans, this is where the changes begin. After this moment in the anime, Armin rejects Eren's wish for his friends to be the heroes. I feel like this is a callback to the first final chapters where Armin reminded Annie that he doesn't want to be seen as a good person. He, just like Annie and Bertel and Reiner, has done some pretty horrific things that can't be undone, and he doesn't want to be seen as a hero or a good guy. However, in the manga version, after Eren and Armin talk about the Tiber family, the next scene, he actually talks about how the rumbling will wipe 80% of humanity, with Armin responding to Eren, did he really need to go this far? Was this all for their sake? We'll come back to the 80% of humanity later on, but pretty much after that, the entire sequence of events with Eren and Armin talking with one another is more or less the same from manga to anime. I do love the transition of the water fading into the lavas. The moment Eren tells Armin that we need to talk about Ymir, it fades into a pit of lava. The way I interpreted this scene is the water symbolizing the ocean that Eren and Armin dreamed to see, and then it fades into a pit of lava, symbolizing the despair and horrible truth of the world, that the outside world wasn't this perfect place, it wasn't this amazing dream that the two kids once had. However, the anime did a wonderful job adapting the manga panels and enhancing them. I do particularly like this slight change where Eren is actually looking at his hand when he talks about how when he touched Ymir he started to understand her. To me, it feels a bit more personal. Eren looking at his hand shows us that him touching Ymir and understanding her really affected him. I particularly like the spotlights that the anime included of Ymir looking at the king as Eren talks about how she was in love with King Fritz while he's being seduced by his lady friends. Ymir looks so small and isolated, just cradling her child, symbolizing that all she wanted was connections and she's just holding on to this one connection that is her child, while King Fritz is surrounded by all these women and he's just looking so free and calm. The scene of Armin and Eren looking at the Aurora Borealis is slightly rearranged when it comes to the reaction shots. In the manga, we cut straight to them looking at the Aurora Borealis, and then we cut to their reaction shots of it. But in the anime, we have the reaction shot first, and then they look at it. I do like how it starts off with their reaction. It makes the audience wonder, what are they reacting to? And then it cuts to this beautiful scene when Eren talks about how he doesn't know exactly what Mikasa will do. We don't have the shot of her holding her scarf in the anime version. The expressions and camera angles of Eren talking about how the Founder's power was messing with his head is slightly different. I do like this Dutch angle. The way it's just tilted in a low angle shot makes the whole scene look really unsettling and you feel uneasy, which is how Eren Yeager is feeling right now. We get a slight change in dialogue where Eren talks about him sending Dinah to Carla. So in the manga version, he says the one who let him go and made her go that way was, and then it cuts to a reaction shot of Armin looking at Eren in horror. But the anime version more or less spoon feeds the audience. The anime version is more direct in telling the audience that it was Eren who did it, as he says, I sent it. I mean, in the manga version, I understood that it was Eren who did it. I did like how it was a bit vague in the manga, but regular casual watchers wouldn't quite understand what Eren meant when he said that, so they had to be a bit more direct for the audience to fully grasp that Eren used his future memory powers to manipulate Dinah to go after Carla, which is pretty tragic considering that Eren pretty much started his path in vengeance. The scene where Armin tells Eren that Mikasa wouldn't be able to forget about him, and then Eren in the manga says, who knows? The anime version says, dunno, which further emphasizes Eren being a bit of an idiot. Armin then says in the manga, wait, who knows? Sort of repeating what Eren said, but in the anime he says the hell kind of answer is that, showing us that he's a lot more angrier with Eren's response. The anime did a phenomenal job adapting Armin's wacky expressions in this shot. And then we come to the scene that a lot of manga readers hated and claimed that it ruined the Attack on Titan anime / manga.
No! I don't want that!
And it's Eren saying that he doesn't want Mikasa to end up with someone. I like how they still kept the scene in the anime because the 10 years kind of is a callback to the fact that the anime has been on air for 10 years. But even when I read this in the manga 2 years ago, I still liked it. I actually was amazed that we finally got to see OG Eren once again. It's like what Armin says after this. It is a little pathetic, but at the same time, I do like seeing this side of Eren because this is how Eren used to be. He was a whiny, shouty little brat throughout the entire first 3 seasons. I do like how he's drawn in the anime. They made his eyes larger. They made him a little more childlike in the anime version. His face is slightly smaller, his eyes are larger. All the expressions right after this interaction is just, it's a phenomenal piece of art that the animators at MAPPA were able to come up with. As Eren talks about how the victims of the rumbling didn't want to die, and it pans to a wide shot of all the rumbling footsteps. Everything from this point onwards up until when Armin goes back to Mikasa is a complete rewrite of this interaction. I still like the manga version. Even to this day, I like everything about it, and I think the anime truly enhanced it and made it even more heartbreaking and engaging. Eren tells Armin that he destroyed 80% of humanity, and this is the first time Armin is hearing this. He was meant to hear about it when he was that little version of himself at the beginning of the final chapter, but after he hears this, he is absolutely distraught over Eren saying all this. Eren talks about how the world outside the walls drops to the same level of civilization as Paradise, making you realize just the scale of the rumbling and how many innocent lives were lost. I feel like this entire interaction with Eren and Armin really makes Armin more of an active person. What I mean by this is that after Armin punches him in the manga, Eren tells him that he still would have flattened the world whether or not the Alliance were going to go after Eren or not. He talks about how he wished for everything to be wiped out. Armin asks him why, and he says, I don't know why, he just wanted to. This moment is in both manga and anime, but after Eren says how he doesn't know why he wanted to flatten the world, he talks about how he's going to erase all of Armin's memories. We get some flashes of Grisha. Eren then starts going on about how they will be battling one another the next time they meet. And then once the battle is over, Armin will remember. Armin picks up the shell and thanks Eren for becoming a mass murderer for their sake. And he swears that the terrible mistake that he made will not go down in vain. He doesn't quite know what will happen after he dies, but he believes that Armin will save humanity. Now, what I meant before about calling Armin an active character is that throughout this moment, in the manga, Armin felt more like a passive character, not really reacting as much to what Eren was saying. He just saw how much pain and torment Eren was going through in this moment, and he just, in my opinion, felt like he had to comfort him in a way. He had to sort of more or less agree with what Eren was saying, and he wasn't really given his own thoughts and opinions and how he truly felt. Yes, he did question Eren why he did that, but he didn't seem to show any frustrations towards Eren when it came to the rumbling. Unlike in the anime where Armin is angry with Eren, saying how all the Alliance's efforts seem to have all been for nothing. He then begs Eren to stop, but Eren tells him it's all been determined. Armin is like, didn't you determine it? And then Eren reveals that he tested it so many times, the things always occurred exactly as he saw in his future memories, revealing that no matter what Eren did, no matter what he tried to change, it all went down the way of the rumbling. I mean, if you remember back in season 4 episode 10, after Lady Kiyomi reveals Zeke's plan to the Eldians, Eren isn't happy with it. He doesn't want Historia to be sacrificed, and he doesn't want to use the rumbling as it's dangerous. He wants to try and find other options, but no other options come his way, and they all lead to sacrificing Historia, and he doesn't want that. So he's forced to go all out with the rumbling. Another example is back when Sasha was shot by Gabi. When Eren laughed after hearing Sasha's last words, it wasn't just because that was a very Sasha thing of her to say, but as Eren said, he tested it many times, but the future was already determined. And maybe back then, Eren tried to change the future, but Sasha still faded away. And then Eren finally says the thing that pretty much I and some other people that understand the ending have been screaming about for the past 2 years. Eren was never free. He was a slave to freedom. I love that. I love the whole concept of Eren never being free to begin with. I mean, look at Eren Yeager's founding Titan design. He looks like a puppet on strings. I'm happy they added this line, he's a slave to freedom, because I feel like a lot of manga readers didn't understand, which is pretty damn obvious. I like subtlety. I like things to be shown and not told. It was always obvious from the moment Eren transformed into the founding Titan that this boy was never free, but some people do need to be told about these things, and the scene of Armin breaking down to Eren saying that wars will continue to keep happening over and over again, and despite all of that, Armin wants to believe that there is still more to all this fighting, that maybe one day they can learn to understand one another. Armin feels more like the main character in this moment, how he still wants to believe that there is a brighter future. Another anime additional line that I really loved is when Armin tells Eren, did he do this all for his friends? And while Eren does want his friends to live long, happy lives, rumbling was all for him. He wanted to do it. It reminded me of the finale of Breaking Bad, where Walter White admitted that he did all of these terrible things because he wanted to. I also like seeing how Eren is showing regret over what happened to Hanji and Sasha, as in a way it was his fault that those two did lose their lives. I do like how we're starting to dive more into his mind than we ever did in the manga. He admits that he is an idiot who got his hands on power. Ever since this dude was a kid, he's always run into battles not thinking. Carla multiple times when he was a kid has told him over and over again to show some restraint and be there for Mikasa. Levi has also told him to show some restraint. People called him the suicidal maniac when he was in the cadets. Never thinking, just always acting on emotion. I mean, Flock even told him in the ending of season 3 that Eren always believes deep down that he feels like he's always in the right, no different than a child. More anime original scenes are of Armin. I love this moment where it's true, Armin did put the idea of freedom into Eren's head when he showed him the book of the outside world. And then the thank you line to Eren was in the manga, but it's a bit different. He thanks Eren for being a genocidal maniac, which upset a lot of manga readers. I wasn't upset by the line. I just interpreted it as Armin is just trying to not make Eren feel any more guilty than he already does, because it's like what Reiner said in the final chapter special 1. Eren doing all this is probably having a huge toll on his mental state. Look where we are right now. Instead of Eren hugging Armin and telling him that he believes he's going to be the one to save the world, he tells him goodbye and they'll meet again in the afterlife, which is a really heartbreaking closure to the two characters. And then pretty much everything after that moment where Armin goes back to the real world and then he cries his heart out to Eren, everything is more or less the same. There aren't any major changes. I've got to give huge thanks to Marina Inoue for this awesome performance as Armin Arlet. I truly believe that Armin Arlet was the main character of this episode. The scene where the time curse is reverted and they're all back to being humans, all the little inner dialogues that all the people have of Eren is more or less the same. Again, on rewatch, I do like the idea of Jean and Connie coming back from being Titans and being humans. He shows regret of losing Sasha, so he wants to make sure that his friends will live happy lives. A controversial moment from the manga, which was a rough mistranslation. Initially, this one Reiner line, "Eren, what a man you are," people didn't like that. They hated how his friends and enemies were praising him for doing all these terrible things. The Levi Ackerman moment was a great closure to his character, and I like how Hanji and Owen are the last people to fade away as an anime additional scene. They were the two closest people to Levi. Everything after this moment is more or less the same from manga to anime. The scene where you see the survivors of the rumbling, the anime added extra scenes where you see the survivors of the rumbling trying to make a better life versus this one panel we got in the manga. All the Jaeger stuff all pretty much happened, but the Historia moment has been extended. They more or less confirmed that Eren told Historia the future memories that he saw. Of course, we all know that Eren told Historia of his rumbling plan before he invaded Mali. To sum up what she said in the anime original lines, the outcome of the rumbling wasn't Eren's choices alone, that not only Eren Yeager should have blood on his hands, that everyone should take responsibility. She uses the word we a lot in this moment, right as you see Lady Kiyomi and other people that appear to be world leaders, showing us that Armin's wish of wanting to have the entire world try and understand one another may come true in the end. All the scenes are more or less the same from manga to anime when it comes to the alliance, but then we get some major changes before the final scenes in the credits. It's of Levi, Gabi, Falco, Yelena and Onyonkopon who are helping the rest of the world get back on their feet. Now you do see Gabi and Falco, Levi and Onyonkopon, but they're in a city, and this city appeared in chapter 134 where the civilians were running away from the rumbling titans, but they changed it. This time Levi is now shown to be giving food and candy to civilians, and this is due to the fact that they have adapted the volume cover of volume 35, which is a special volume manga that will be released in the Shingeki Fly art book. I do like how it's given us that hope that humanity will recover from the events of the rumbling, and we come to the final scenes of Mikasa on the tree on that hill. The manga version, you do see baby Eren and Mikasa, but it looks like a flashback, but in the anime they sort of combined those two scenes so it feels like they are in the same shot. I kind of like this scene. It reminds me of the season 3 part 1 opening theme, Red Swan, where you see baby Eren bumping into OG Eren, showing us how important their past is to them and how it made them who they are. Mikasa crying in the anime version was heartbreaking, and I like how they made her look more stylish. The post-credit scenes of Paradise Island, seeing hundreds of years of peace, it's beautiful. They do adapt some panels where you see a man and a woman and her child. People have theorized that this is Jean. You do see Jean combing his hair earlier on in the episode, and the hairstyle does resemble that, as well as Jean having that flash forward in the episode Night of the End where he is with his family. They pretty much adapt these scenes one to one and made them even more beautiful to look at, yet really heartbreaking. You see that shot of Mikasa as an old lady. How that's beautiful to you 2000 or 20,000 years from now by Link to Horizon playing in the background with those gorgeous visuals. It gave me Studio Ghibli vibes. The female voice in the background beginning the song, and then the song starts to gear up a notch, and then you hear the true Link to Horizon rising up as we see Paradise Island enter a new era in the post-credit scenes. When I read these in the manga, I was a bit shocked by all this, but I loved it at the same time. It shows us that humanity will never learn. They will continue to do the same acts of violence like they did before in the past, and this could just be Eldians versus Eldians on their island, or it could be the entire world bombing Paradise Island for what they did. But I don't think it really matters what the truth is. It's like what Eren Kruger said, there is no truth. It's all up for interpretation. The only truth is that humanity will continue to fight one another until there is one man standing, like what Owen said. And that's pretty much the main comparisons so far. Of course, I will do the other 2 chapters as separate videos, but the animators at Studio MAPPA did a phenomenal job, as well as all the voice actors and actresses and the sound composers. I like the ending of Attack on Titan when it was in manga form. but now that it's in anime form, I love it even more. They did a phenomenal job elevating the manga and truly making Attack on Titan a masterpiece of an anime, and for that I'm going to up my rating for this final episode and give it a 9.5 out of 10 and an A+. Thank you Hajime Isayama for the ending of AOT as well as the new script, Yuichiro Hayashi for directing the episode, and Arifumi Ima for apparently coming back to animate those gorgeous Mikasa, Ackerman and Levi Ackerman sequence of them heading towards the founding Titan. What did you think of the comparisons? Tell me. Like for more AOT videos. Thank you for watching. A boy Dude Reviews signing out.